What's up, developers? Welcome to Talking AI, where we break down the AI news that actually affects your code, your wallet, and your weekend plans. We'll be talking about Apple's origin story to understand why they're currently getting their lunch eaten in the AI race. But honestly, you can't understand where Apple is going without understanding how two college dropouts basically created the blueprint for every tech startup success story you've ever heard. At the end of this video, I'll be sharing something awesome with you guys, so be sure to stick around. Not sure about you, but I can't wait. So today we're diving into how Apple went from a garage project to the company that taught everyone else how to sell overpriced hardware with a straight face. And trust me, this isn't just nostalgia. Understanding Apple's founding DNA is crucial for understanding why they're struggling so hard with AI right now. Let's set the scene. April 1st, 1976. Two Steves, Jobs and Wozniak, decide to start Apple Computer, Inc. And yes, they founded it on April Fool's Day, which honestly explains a lot about their pricing strategy. Now, everyone loves the garage startup narrative. But here's the kicker. These weren't just random college kids tinkering with computers. Wozniak was already a brilliant engineer who had built what would become the Apple I basically as a side project. Jobs was the guy who looked at Woz's engineering masterpiece and thought, how do we turn this into money? It's basically like if your friend who writes incredible code paired up with your friend who's really good at selling people things they don't need. Except in this case, people actually did need personal computers. They just didn't know it yet. Here's where it gets interesting from a business perspective. To raise money for their first batch of printed circuit boards, Jobs sold his Volkswagen Type 2 minibus for $1,500, and Wozniak sold his HP 65 programmable calculator for $500. That's right, they bootstrapped Apple Computer with $2,000. Plot twist, that HP calculator Wozniak sold, it was basically the iPhone of calculators at the time. The guy sold his cutting-edge tech device to fund building cutting-edge tech devices. That's either brilliant circular economics or the kind of ironic sacrifice that only makes sense in hindsight. But here's what this actually means for developers. These guys weren't venture capital babies. They literally sold their personal tech to fund their first production run. When you're debugging at 2 a.m., wondering if your startup is worth the stress, remember that Apple started with the equivalent of what you'd make selling your gaming rig and your car. Now, here's a story that should be required reading for anyone considering equity deals. There was a third founder, Ronald Wayne, and honestly, this guy deserves his own Netflix documentary about making catastrophically bad financial decisions. Jobs convinced Wayne to take 10% of the company's stock and act as an arbiter when he and Woz inevitably disagreed about stuff. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, Wayne looked at these two college dropouts arguing about computers and thought this seems risky and backed out after 12 days. He sold his 10% stake for $500. Let me repeat that. Ronald Wayne sold 10% of Apple for $500. That stake would have been worth $72 billion 40 years later. That's billion with a B. This is basically the tech equivalent of selling Bitcoin at $1 because digital money sounds sketchy. For developers, this is the ultimate cautionary tale about understanding the long-term value of what you're building. Wayne saw the day-to-day chaos of a startup and missed the bigger picture entirely. It's like quitting your job at Google in 1999 because search engines are just a fad. Here's where Apple's story gets genuinely impressive. They went from $7.8 million in sales in 1978 to $117 million in 1980. The year they went public. That's not just growth, that's the kind of exponential curve that makes every developer wonder if they should drop everything and start a hardware company. But here's the reality check. This happened because they were solving a real problem. Personal computers weren't just a cool tech demo. They were the future of how people would work, create, and communicate. The timing was perfect, the product was solid, and they had a business guy who could actually sell the vision. The lesson for developers? Sometimes the best opportunities aren't building better versions of existing tools. They're building the tools that make existing tools obsolete. Apple didn't make better calculators. They made calculators irrelevant. Now, before you ask why we're talking about 1976 when we should be discussing 2025 AI models, here's the connection. Apple's founding story reveals their core business philosophy that's both their biggest strength and their biggest weakness in the AI era. From day one, Apple was about taking complex technology and making it accessible to regular people. They weren't trying to build the most powerful computer, they were trying to build the computer your mom could use. That approach worked brilliantly for personal computers, smartphones, and tablets. But AI is different. The cutting edge actually matters. When Google and OpenAI are racing to build the most powerful models, Apple's polish it until it's perfect approach means they're always playing catch-up. The DNA that made them dominant in hardware is making them followers in AI. This origin story sets up everything we need to understand about Apple's current AI struggles. They built a company culture around controlling the entire user experience, taking their time to get things right, and charging premium prices for premium polish. That worked when they were competing against Dell and Microsoft. It's not working when they're competing against companies that are willing to ship beta AI features and iterate in public. In our next episode, we'll dive into how this garage startup became an AI company. Spoiler alert, it involved buying Siri and then spending 13 years trying to make it actually useful. And in part 3, we'll get into the current drama of whether Apple can compete with the AI giants or if they're about to become the BlackBerry of the AI era. That's the TLDR on how two Steves in a garage built the foundation for the most valuable company in the world. If this saved you from reading 47 blog posts about Apple's founding story, hit subscribe. And if you're building the next game-changing startup in your garage, drop a comment. Would love to hear what problem you're solving that everyone else thinks is impossible. Next time, Apple's AI journey from Siri to intelligence, or as I like to call it, how to turn a revolutionary voice assistant into a glorified timer app in 13 easy steps. But first, spoiler alert, there won't be much AI usage taking place in this series. Feel free to reference what Apple's AI team is called internally. So for your viewing pleasure, I give you a video I can't get enough of. Now that is what I'm talking about.